morning and welcome to another episode of Kingdom News. I'm your host, Gwen Goolsby Tillery, and I am going to continue this week with bringing on some of the participating authors, contributing authors to the anthology entitled Through the Fire, Stories of Strength, Courage, and Resilience. Now, so if you've been watching me for a little bit, you've seen this guest before, but I'm excited to have him back on. I am excited to talk about his contribution to the book. So welcome this week. He has brother slash pastor Anthony Goolsby, and you can probably tell by the last name that I am related to this person. This is not just my brother in Christ, but this is my brother. So welcome back. Glad to have you.
Hey, sis. Glad to be here. Glad to be here. And
so this time we get to talk about your contribution to the book and your section, which is entitled The Voice. And so I know I've gotten feedback about the book, because somebody was like, well, when is he going to talk about the voice? So I just can't wait to get through this for you to be able just to share your story and your testimony, as well as some nuggets for people, so that, you know, someone who might find themselves in a similar situation would be able to know, first of all, that there is a way to get through it, and also know that if God did it for you, he can also do it for them. So just briefly introduce yourself. You know, we know your name. You know, where do you live? What do you do? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, you know my name. I live in Germany through circumstances that I'll probably talk about today. I'm pastoring a small but powerful church in the city of Würzburg, Germany. We're 2 years old. We're growing. I think our post for today, we try to post something every day, is we're here to break the back of traditions. So, yeah, that gives you a little feel for who we are and what we do. We're about freedom in Jesus Christ. We're about Jesus. We're all about Jesus. I know everybody say that, but I think we working towards it really hard.
Good. I know you are. I have had the opportunity to be able to witness that firsthand. So I know that you absolutely are. You know how I feel about breaking tradition and really moving the way God would have us to move. So anytime I hear that from you or someone else, I get excited about it. So again, as I said, your portion of the book was entitled The Voice, but before you start talking about what the voice represents, you start sharing your testimony with us. And so give us a little bit more about your story, your testimony, and let's begin to break that thing down and why you entitled your section The Voice.
Yeah, that's not hard to do, but I can't talk about before Christ because there was no before Christ. Christ was always in my life, even when I didn't know it. You know, and I'm just a kid from New York. I did maybe I don't know what New York things are really, but I lived what I thought was a normal New York life. Came from a great family. We were normally abnormal. We were functionally dysfunctional. I think that's what made me and my sister so close, because she was the youngest. She was also the only female. I was the oldest, and situations arose that caused us to spend a lot of time together. My life, man, I was born addicted to something. I don't know exactly how to phrase that, but I was born addicted to something. My first addiction that I noticed was when I was in school. They had teachers' aides, and they were usually young, much younger than teachers. And then in elementary school, your teachers are young too. So I was addicted to their attention. And that made me an outstanding student for about 3 years. I mean, I was top notch. But then I realized I can get one-on-one attention by acting the fool.
Mm.
So I started acting the fool. And then they thought they were punishing me, but they would reward me by taking me out the class and putting me with a teacher's aide. I can't remember their names, but I still remember their faces. And even at a young age, I would just charm them and we would just have the most wonderful time together. And I thrived off that attention.
You know, it's I'm laughing, like I'm really like chuckling when you say that, because you know, for some of you, you may know, for others, you may not know, I am an educator. I still call myself an educator, even though I'm not necessarily in the school system. But I can remember my first year teaching, and I was that young teacher. I was 22 years old when I started teaching, and I had a class. My background, my specialty was working with students that were classified, students that were considered special education students, and so I had a majority of young men in my class. And these young men were pretty challenging. And I found myself in a situation where I was saying that I was punishing them, right? And I would keep them in for lunch. But then I started to notice something. I started to notice that it seemed like they would intentionally do things for me to keep them in it. And I realized the only person I was punishing was myself, because I kept losing my lunch period and my lunch break for myself. And so I had to reshift that thing. They wanted to be with me for lunch, but they didn't like staying after school. So I had to switch it up and have them stay after school because they didn't like that. So you're right. You know, people respond to that. You know, it's like positive behavior response. You know, that was what you wanted. That was what you sought, even though you had to do something that wasn't favorable to get it. You did it because the end result was what you want. And that's so much the case in a lot of things that we do in life. But as we mature, we really need to pay attention to, okay, what is the root cause for why we are doing this thing? Just have to chime in and say that. So now continue.
Amen. There's a message in that for parents and for grandparents and big brothers and big sisters, that kids need attention. They need attention. And as a old grandfather now, man, I give my grandkids my full and undivided attention. You know, I get mad because ministry comes up and I got to leave them, but I let them know I'll be right back. Anyway, there's a message in that.
Absolutely.
So that was my first addiction. And I remember 2 drinking incidents that are significant. You may remember one of them. It was the day after Thanksgiving. Our father had a half a gallon of Canadian Club. And I got up real early in the morning and had a drink. So that he wouldn't notice that I took a drink, I put some water in the liquor. But then, even then, I was an alcoholic because I couldn't stop drinking. And I went back and had another one. Then I put some more water in it. Now, I'm not realizing this is going down smoother because I'm diluting it. And, you know, I'm getting used to it. So I guess by 10 that morning, I'm suffering from literally alcohol poisoning. And I'm regurgitating violently. And my mother wants to take me to the ER. And my father says, he'll be all right. Just lay him on his stomach. And the next day was Saturday. And I've been working since I was 12. And he woke me up, man. My head was like this big. And he said, come on, we got to go to work. And I was like, no, I don't feel good. He says, you feel fine. You feel fine. You man enough to drink. you man enough to work the day after. That was a significant day in my drinking career. First of all, from the first time I drank, I lost control over my drinking. And then that lesson, it's okay to drink if you get up and go to work the next day.
Mm.
The next time I drank, man, this is hard because all these cats are dead. All these cats the streets took. And I'm with my boys. I'll name them because I love them and they deserve it. On honor, it was Otis, Shorty, and George. And George's mother went away and we were drinking her Johnny Walker Black. See how significant alcohol is to me? I remember the names. I remember what we were drinking. And we're drinking it on the rocks, big time, out the good glasses. And I remember this feeling came over me, like, not like I was better than everybody else, but I was equal to everybody else. And I made myself a promise that day that this would be something I would do often. You would think after the first experience, I would never drink again. But and from there, I tried drugs, I tried everything, and I'm hopelessly addicted. And that's what made me run to the Army was the train station incident. Should I talk about that or let them buy the book?
I say let them get the book for that. I mean, listen, look, you bring my brother all my life. I got to tell you, when I read that, I was like, how stupid could you be? Like, did you really do that? So they got to have to read that for themselves. But it just shows you the level of ignorance that we can operate in when there's certain things going on in our lives or certain things that are missing in our lives. We just don't think things through. So no, they're gonna have to get the book for that specific section. We'll talk about some specifics, but we'll leave that one for them to read on their own. So at this point, so after that incident, you're like, pretty much it's an incident where you're like, you know what, I better get out of here. Like, if I don't, I'm going to end up dead or in jail. That was probably your thinking.
Definitely. That was definitely my thinking. That was, yeah, I think it was the voice.
So at that point, the voice is like, get yourself out of here, go do something productive. And the other voice, our mother, was also like, you're not going to just be in here in this house, not doing anything productive. She didn't play that.
Wow, you're gonna like send me back into some kind of like deja vu thing. Don't do that.
Well, I mean, it was the case.
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
As you said, I'm the only girl and I have 3 brothers. I mean, that's the one thing we could say. She didn't play with you guys when it came to that. You know, she wanted you guys to work and be productive and be able to handle your business. She wanted that for all of us. So if nothing else, she instilled that in us, like, you're going to take care of yourself in your business.
Quick story. I remember she woke me up one morning at 7. And I said, Ma, you know I ain't going to school. You know that. Where I'm supposed to go? She said, I don't know, but you leaving here?
Yeah, because in other words, she would say, I didn't need a babysitter. I didn't need anybody staying at home babysitting and watching me. So you're going to get up out of this house. So
that's about how it went.
That's how it went. And between the voice and her, it was exactly what you needed at that time.
It was. There's some supernatural things that happened. That's why I say I can't talk about before Christ times, because Christ was always in my life. When I had this epiphany, this moment of clarity, and I had signed up for the Army and I was ready to go until it was time to go. And then I was like, nah, I ain't doing that. And the only person who I couldn't disappoint, because I ain't have no problem disappointing mom. I had made a hobby of that. The only person I couldn't disappoint was grandma. And who shows up a few days before I'm supposed to leave? I'm like, man. And I'm planning on not going. And this woman is thrilled that I'm going in the army and it's going to change my life. And she's this and she's that. And I'm like, man, that's grandma. Man, let me go. Let me go. I'll just go and stay a few weeks and come home. But let me go. And that's the reason I went. And I call that supernatural because we both know grandma didn't come up on the regular.
Absolutely not. But we also got to give a little more information about grandma. You know, grandma was the church mom, the mother of the church. You know, she was the praying grandma. I'm sure she spent a lot of time on her knees. And, you know, now in retrospect, understanding the power of the Holy Spirit and the power of prayer, she didn't just by accident come up there.
Mm.
She didn't by accident come up there. At the time, you thought that because you just didn't know the power of prayer. You didn't know this God that we serve, that when you pray for people, he reveals things, he gives you things. So she didn't come up there by accident. So you're right, that was a divine interaction that took place there, because she was on her knees one morning, because you know she got up like 5 a.m, probably until the day she left this earth, and got down on her knees. I can remember her 80-something years old on the side of her bed, down on her knees. She got up and she prayed. And when she got up and she prayed, she probably got a revelation like, I need to get up there to NYC because this boy, he done changed his mind. And if I don't get up there, it's going to be a problem. So we got to say, you know, for those grandmas, I want to say this, for those mothers and those grandmothers who feel like their prayers are in vain, they're not in vain. God hears you. He hears you. So keep praying. So let's fast forward. I know I'm making this difficult, but you know, I like to keep this show, you know, it's got to be real. It's got to be real. We spend too much time being fake, and so it's got to be real. So you go into the army, you join the army and move forward. What is life like at this point?
I joined the army. Let me give your mom some kudos, because I called home once. I said, Mom, this ain't for me. I'm coming home. She said, boy, you stay right up there where you at, because you ain't got no home to come to. You stay right where you at. And you come back and visit when you finish. I was like, man, this joker. But anyway, it went all right. I had my troubles being addicted to being an alcoholic, being drug addicted. Makes everything more difficult, you know. But I graduated basic. I learned a trade. Came back, got orders for Germany. Here's something interesting. Back then, you could trade your orders with somebody and go. You know, if you found somebody that didn't want to go to Korea and you wanted to go to Korea, and you could trade your orders with them. And we all had the same job because we were all in the same school. They wouldn't let me do that. I was like, but everybody does that. They're like, no, you can't do that. I don't remember what reason they gave me. So I decided when I went on leave, I come back late. Real late. Go to jail late. Because I ain't scared of jail. I'm from New York. I come back like 2-3 weeks late. They take my old orders. So I'm like, yeah, they're going to cut me some new orders. I might have to, you know, go to jail or get punished, whatever, but they're going to cut me some new orders. Next morning I got up. Dude gave me my old orders with a new date and told me there was the bus. So here I am going to Germany. I don't want to come here. I've done everything I can not to come here. And something will not let me not come here. Notice I'm still here 41 years later, tell me that ain't God. Tell me that ain't God. Man, against my will, bringing me where he want me to be. And if it's good for God, it's good for you. But anyway, my military career was lackluster and substandard, like everything for an addict. I got out the military and wanted to stay here because I didn't want to take my daughter. Oh, yeah, I got this daughter, man. She's wonderful. She's beautiful. She's my world. My wife is a dream come true. A dream come true. For real. My wife is the nicest person you ever meet. When I get mad at her, I just remind myself what a nice person she is, and I got to treat her that way. So I keep telling myself, okay, I'm gonna stop this. I'm gonna stop this. Man, my daughter was born. I was able to stop getting high for 2 whole days. So man, I just ran out of nerve. And during this time, I'm praying to God as best as a non-church person could pray to God, which may be better than a church person could pray to God. I'm not rating that. I'm running into Christians. I'm like always running into Christians, and I'm like, yeah, can we pray for you? Like, sure, pray for me. And just so you pray accurately, I need this. I don't have nothing against prayer. Still using. So I go to a program. It's not church based. It's not church based. It's hard to talk about at the level of press, radio, and films. So now that I said that, everybody who's familiar with it will know what I'm talking about, and everybody who's not will just wonder. But I met people who believed in God, and they weren't church people. They were kind, loving people, and they taught me good, godly principles outside of the church. I have to stress this. We think in the church we have this monopoly on something. We don't. And a matter of fact, we end up messing it up pretty well. These people loved me. They accepted me. They supported me. I had a mentor who happened to be a Catholic. And this guy got me started reading the Bible. And he would handpick what I would read, and we would talk about it. I came to believe. I mean, it's one thing to know that something exists, but something deeper to believe in it. And I came to believe, and I was able to maintain sobriety and abstinence and put together a family and, wow, manage some unbelievably good jobs and some things. And God is behind all of that. I have to share this with you. The basis of this program was that God could do for you what you could not do for yourself if you let him. And all you had to do was ask and follow the guidance that you got, and it worked so well for me. It worked so well. And I came to love God long before I stepped in a church building. I came to love the Bible long before I was watching sermons or listening to sermons. So I don't know. I don't know what I'm trying to convey with that, but that's my story. And I wouldn't have it any other way. Having met the Lord outside of church gives me a viewpoint. Well, I almost spoke German to you. Gives me a viewpoint that I could see things differently than others. that were raised and born in the church. I'm not saying I'm right, or I'm not saying I'm wrong. I'm just saying I have a different viewpoint. And I haven't, well, maybe by now I have, but in the beginning, I hadn't been in church so long that the traditions had me fooled. You know, I was a Christian. I wasn't a churchian.
Yeah, I get that. Again, we're very similar in that too. That even though we knew of God, we knew about God, again, you and I probably spent the most amount of time around our grandmother, who, like I said, was definitely, she was the one that was always serving, or, she was a woman of God. And so we knew of, but we did not grow up in church. So our perspective when it comes to it is definitely different as a result of not having grown up in church and having experienced, those traditions that so many experience.
So, yeah.
So you come to know God, you come to love God, you come to read the Bible and study it and know it in a way that is very personal, which is absolutely wonderful. So at this point, life is wonderful, or is it not? Because this is right out of you. So you go through the program, and so you, at this point, do you kick the addiction of alcohol and drugs?
Uh, yeah, I had one relapse about 2 months in, and after that, I haven't had a recreational drink or drug since then. It's
How long?
as of now probably about 33, 32 years.
Wow.
Yeah, God is good like that.
Wow.
You
Okay.
can't do that. You can't do that being religious.
Mm.
But that's a different term.
Explain what you mean by that.
That requires an honesty and a transparency that's often not common in the church. I remember when I first went to church, man, I was in love. I'm still in awe of my first pastors. They put a foundation in me. God knew what he was doing when he sent me there. He sent me there. Read the book. He sent me there. But anyway, it just requires an honesty, a transparency, and an ongoing relationship with Jesus or with God day for day. You need, if you're a freshly recovering addict, you need daily manna. And the manna from yesterday is spoiled today. You need manna today. And if you miss a day getting your manna, you're in danger of relapse because that hole is still in you. If you read my story, I talk about different phases of recovery I went through and how my addiction was always evident in strange behavior that I had until I completely gave myself over to Christ.
Right, because in the book you don't just talk about drug and alcohol, you talk about the addiction. You go back even as an older adult, not even in school, you go back to the addiction of attention.
You say that, I never hit it on the head just like that. I went full circle. When I took away the drugs and alcohol, my behavior became attention seeking again through different means.
Which is why we always need to focus on those replacement behaviors when we're trying to get rid of something. We got to be mindful of what are we replacing it with. And so, yes, you you overcame the drugs and the alcohol, and in that aspect, life was wonderful for you because you were no longer addicted to the alcohol. You were no longer using drugs. But because there was still something in you that was missing or broken, because you didn't feel fulfilled in who you were completely, you went back to that thing that gave you attention, which created some other issues for you.
Yeah, there's this gap, there's this empty space, and it must be filled. I call it my God space now, and when God comes out of that space, I have to fill it with something, and not going to tell the whole book. Wow. In those few short pages, I talked about a lot of things.
You did. You covered quite a bit.
I'll talk about my stint with bodybuilding, with fitness. Just decided to go to gym one day. Seemed like a good idea, Next thing I know, I'm using steroids. Um, I don't know what the opposite of anorexia is called, but now I have that. I'm thinking, my God, I got to get bigger. And it's because of that empty space. And when I would be with these guys, and I would be bigger than a guy I wasn't bigger than 2 years ago. That was the attention I needed. Or when I was in the gym and somebody said, "Whoa, dude, man, you're a monster." That was the attention I needed. Or when I went somewhere, oh man, my poor wife. I remember we went on vacation and there were a lot of single women there. And first of all, I'm a black guy. Second of all, I'm American. And third of all, I'm buffed. I'm huge. And the attention I got, man, it was like being high. It was like being high. And but God don't let them things last long in you once you call in his name. He exposed those things. So yeah. That's
So how do you, and well, you already kind of gave us a clue. You really have to be willing to do some hard work
every day.
Not just every now and then, but every day. So the process begins with you, I guess, having that difficult conversation with yourself, like, yo, bro, like, you're not doing drugs and alcohol. You might not be doing this, but you still got some issues. There's still some challenges.
That's where mentorship was so important. I'm not going to say there's a lack of mentorship in the church. I'm not going to say that. But I know the type of mentorship I had is critical. And the type of relationship I gained with my mentor, we used to have the same, I used to say, if my mentor told me to go to the corner of 42nd Street and 7th Avenue, pull down my pants and try to hail a cab like that with my butt, I would do it. And that, and anything I had to tell him that I did, I would tell him. Anything. And that's what it took. And after years and years of that, I think God said, okay, now you ready.
So having someone, you say a mentor, but it sounds like it was more than a mentor. It was someone who you could really be honest and transparent with without the worry of judgment.
Wow. I really respect the program that I'm in, and I don't want to violate it. But my mentor was one of me. He was a recovered alcoholic or addict. So he knew I can trust him. And he was he had established his recovery by the same means I was trying to establish mine by. So a lot of things just fell. He wasn't somebody I was looking up to, even though I did, but it was a lot of looking across, you know. And when I would say, I did this, he wouldn't say, well, the book says this, this, and this. He would say, yeah, I remember when I did that. And I remember how I felt. And now I've learned the following. Try this. Not do this, but try this. And if you try it, come back and talk to me again. You know, it was kind of like that. I think that was the key difference. Yeah, yeah.
Sorry, looks like I was having a Wi-Fi issue for a quick second. So, yep, it's good now. It's stable now. So let's move forward a little bit. The title of your chapter is called "The Voice." Talk
Yes,
to
ma'am.
us about talk to us about the voice.
That's man. That's so I can talk about the voice incident, the voice thing. We could talk about that.
Yes.
Cool. Let's talk about that. Man, I'm living my life. I'm living the good life. Vacations, nice cars, unbelievable job. Man, I'm living the life. I'm over here in Europe. Got a job that sends me all around Europe on their dollar and not mine. I'm living the life. So my wife, well, I'm not happy. Not happy. And I'm supposed to be happy. You know, and I'm not. And, you know, me and my wife, we like vacation and we had some great vacations. So we decide to go to Cyprus. I'm going to speed this up as much as I can. We get to Cyprus and it's a terrible vacation spot. It's just terrible. The prices are extremely high. They are on the same economy as England. So if you've ever been to London, you know the ridiculousness I'm talking about. It's worse than New York. So the beaches are terrible. The hotel is mediocre. Most of the clientele on the side of the island I was on were either British or Russian. Let me not go there. But the nightlife, oh my, there's nothing else to do except party. My lovely wife don't party, so I'm partying every night, and I'm trying to like hang out with her during the day. You know that don't work. So I come up with this idea. Let's take one of these 4-day cruises. I'll be trapped on a boat, and I can't party because I the main thing on a boat is gambling and evening wear and all that kind of stuff. You know, I don't do that. So then my wife will have my total attention. And it stopped in Egypt, 2 places in Egypt, Cairo and wherever the pyramids and the Sphinx are. I wasn't very impressed by that. It stopped in Lebanon, a beautiful place in spite of being war torn. And it stopped in Israel. And I'm kind of excited to be in Israel because historically I understand where I am and I know the history of the place. And yeah, I get to see this place and take pictures. Cool. And we're in the house of the sepulcher. And I look at this guy and he's bent over a stone and he's rubbing crosses on it. I can still see it clearly. And he's crying. And I'm like, what's wrong with this fool?
That's exactly what you said too.
Yeah. You know, and the tour guide explains that's the slab that Jesus allegedly lied upon the 3 days, you know, or that they laid him upon and found empty when they returned on the 3rd day. I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. And I just heard this voice call me. I turned around and wasn't nothing there. So then it called me again, and it was in a deeper, louder place. And okay. Then the third time, man, I was like, whoa, whoa. And I knew I had the choice to say yes or no. So I didn't say anything. And it called me again. And probably again. And it called me from this deep place where I like to say this emptiness lies. And I began to cry is not the right word. I began to weep, a sorrowful, sorrowful weeping. And I began to say yes. Mm-hmm. I knew it was a matter of yes or no. And I could have said no. But I said yes. And I just kept saying yes, yes. And then yes turned to yes, Lord. And I'm crying and everybody's looking at me. And I'm like, oh, man, all my cool points are gone. My wife's looking at me. I know she thinks, okay, this fool done relapsed. He done started using drugs again. And that was the beginning of a totally new life. That's why I call it the voice. And throughout the book, I talk about how the voice whispered throughout my life. You know, but that time it screamed.
Mm. So that life-defining, life-changing moment in your life, is this when, so I know you at this point you were already saved, correct?
No,
you were not.
No, I was, you know what? I think that was my saving experience.
Okay.
That was my saving experience. But then I didn't know what I said yes to.
Because that's what I was going to ask you. Did you know what you were saying yes to?
Had no clue. Came back home. My wife had a friend who was backslidden. And I told her what happened. And she said, well, I'm looking for a church. You should look with me. And I was like, yeah, that makes sense. They'll know what to do. You know, and took us 3 or 4 weeks. And as soon as I walked into New Life Christian Fellowship, the air was fresh and beautiful. The atmosphere, you could smell and feel the atmosphere. And I sat down and I knew this was it. I knew it. I knew it. And this was it. And that was the beginning of me becoming a Christian. I can't say I was a Christian before because I wasn't following the ways of Christ. I was just following the good, orderly direction of the Bible. Mm. And there's probably a difference. There is a difference.
Right. I would say too, at that point too, where you hear the voice, I believe that yes, a relationship begins to develop as well. That, right?
I mean, Jesus ain't offended when I say that's my boy.
Listen, I mean, because the bottom line isn't that that's really what it's about. It's about that relationship. You know, you literally are having a conversation with him.
He was asking and waiting for me to answer yes or no. You know, why then? Why that place? Who knows if it? God knows. God knows.
Well, probably like so many other things in your life and my life and a whole lot of other people's lives. You know, we serve a God that is very intentional, and he will order our steps. The question is whether or not we will be obedient to responding by saying yes and moving forward. So that's another incident. I don't believe that you ended up in Cyprus by mistake, that you ended up there to end up where you ended up.
Yeah, from from the beginning of the written story till the end, there are instances where God intervenes, where God actually intervenes. And I could have messed it up, but God had intervened. His grace and mercy stopped me from being imprisoned at the very beginning of the story, or being mortally wounded in the beginning of the story. Later in the story, he directed me here against my will, and I could have totally rebelled, but I didn't. And he called me there, and I know I had the right to say no. I had the right to say no, but I said yes.
Well, that's the wonderful thing about God is that, he does give us free will. At any point, we can give him a yes or a no. And so there's a blessing in the yes. There is so many amazing things when we respond with the yes and when we are obedient to that voice, that we hear. And so you start attending church, and from there, it's like you just been going ever since.
I had pastors who would pour into you as much as you could hold. They would. I was in church a few months, and I would just come. They were having like stuff for leaders, and I would come. And pastor would say, "Well, yeah, have a seat." Yeah, I think I was there maybe just 6 months, 8 months, and they started a preaching class. I was there. I remember pastor asked me, like, they were talking about putting your hand to the plow and every joint supplying. And he asked me what I wanted to do. And I said, well, I want to know how to do everything so that when you need something, I could jump in. He just looked at me. He said, you really mean that, don't you? I was like, yeah, this is what I do, man. And God called me personally. This is my thinking. God personally took time out his busy day to visit me in his hometown and say, hey, Anthony, you with me or you against me? You rolling or you staying? You going to be my ride and die or not? And I said, yes, I'll, Pastor, whatever. I want to know how to do everything. He just chuckled. Put his arm around me and said, okay, this is how long ago it was. He said, we'll put you with I forgot his name, on tape ministry. He'll show you how to make tapes. Yeah, that's how it was. And they tested you. They tested you. One day she called me. She said, yeah, we're going to sit you down. I don't even remember what I was doing. I think I was on the prayer team. Or no, I may have, I don't know what I was doing. I was like, why? She said, because God said so. Man, I was hurt. I don't think she knew how hurt I was. She knew I was hurt, but I was hurt. But God called me. God called me personally. And as mad as I am at you, and as much as you hurt me, I'm rolling with God. And that was a Sunday. We had, I don't remember what day it was. We had something Wednesday. And Wednesday, I was right back there just like normal. Put my little attitude away. And she was like, she talked to me. And I'm like, I'm fine. And later that week, she asked me to take her somewhere. Would I drive her somewhere? I said, sure, I'd love to. And she talked about it. And I said, I'm here to serve God. And if you sat me down, I can still serve God. I'm serving him now by driving you. And she looked, she was like, okay, okay. And I realized that I was just being tested, you know. That was a hard test. Or maybe I wasn't. Maybe God showed her something in me that needed to be broken,
Mm.
you know. And that's how I am today. You know, I ran across the scripture, and then I gotta say something pastoral. You know, let me get my Bible. This scripture blew me away the other day. It's Romans 3:4, and it's Paul speaking. Romans 3:4, and it says, "Not at all. Let God be true, and every human being a liar, as it is written, so that you may be proved right when you speak and prevail when you judge."
Mm.
Man, if you say law on that for a little while, and I don't want to make nobody mad, and I don't want to cause nobody to be rebellious, but if God told me something, if God called me, I don't care what title you got, what kind of funny suit or hat you wear, let God be true and every man a liar. Let God be true and every man a liar. And then it goes on to say, you will be proved right in what you say, and you will win your case. Oh, I switched to the New Living. And you will win your case in court. And I didn't know that's what I was doing all the time. I was my whole Christian walk. I don't care who say what, who do what. Christ called me. Christ called me. Christ called me. And that's who I follow. I don't follow your traditions. I don't follow all these little extra books, denominational books you got. I got a Bible, and Christ called me. Let God be true and every man a liar. It's my message. If God told you something, you run with that thing. Don't let nobody stop you. Man, because if you're running for Christ, how can you fail? How could you fail if you're running for Christ? But if you're running for man, your success might be a failure.
Amen.
So,
Oh, yes. Yeah.
yeah,
See, now you just look, yeah. See, now you talking my language, because that's that whole success is in your DNA. Success arise is not about the success of the world. We achieve success by doing and becoming what it is that God has called us to be and do individually. That's it.
man.
Plain and simple. And so I mean, you said a lot of stuff, but that right there is so powerful. But it's a scary place to be in. We understand it's a scary place to be in because, like Jesus, that journey could be lonely, when you see and you understand, but no one else seems to see and no one else seems to understand. And because God created us to be relational in nature, it is difficult to walk that path alone and not be understood. But you are absolutely right. At the end of the day, if God said it and you heard it, then you need to do it.
Man, I think we at Jesus No Borders have more canceled Bible studies than we have Bible studies, because somebody will say something and I'll get to like exercising my gift for gab. I used to be a 5%er too. But I was telling them, like, man, you guys could call me pastor, you could call me elder, you could call me bishop, you can call me what you want to call me. But if I'm a leader, my job is to help you accomplish what God put in you. Your job is not to help me accomplish a big church.
Listen, we better end there because you're gonna step on some toes with that right there. So
They ain't coming over here to Germany to get me, so I ain't scared. I ain't scared.
but look,
No,
look, I'm in agreement, but I'm not in Germany. But anyway,
okay. Since you know I got your back.
I know
Boy,
you do. I'm listen,
man.
and then when you get the book, I'm going to put up his website, support him. But when you get the book, I start out the anthology, and in that anthology, I talk about the importance of my brother in my life and truly being my covering from the day that I was born up until this very moment. And so, yes, I do know that you have my back in more ways than one. So, listen, I thank you for coming on. I thank you for your transparency. I thank you for keeping it real. And I don't mean just keeping it real in this interview. I mean keeping it real in terms of who God has called you to be. I know that, there's so much pressure to conform. There's so much pressure to follow, the traditions and to do as we have seen. But I truly honor and respect you for standing your ground and being the man that God has called you to be. And I just know that you're going to just be blessed as a result of it. So how can people connect with you?
I think my there it is. Brand new website, www.anthonychristchild.com. You can follow me on Facebook that way. If you follow me that way, I'll put you in the Jesus No Borders group, and that's strictly what we do ministerially. The website is new. We're building it up, but yeah, hit me on the website. Hit me on Facebook, Anthony Christ Child. I love to communicate. And I'd love to communicate with you. I think I got an unusual message. I think everybody should hear it and have a chance to evaluate it, because you can't react to information that you haven't heard. So, yep. That's that.
Yes, thank you. And you're also on Instagram, Jesus No Borders, as well as Anthony Christ Child on Instagram as well.
Yes.
Okay. So Facebook, Instagram, or the website that you see down below. So again, I thank you for coming on. It's always exciting to just be able to connect with you and talk with you. Thank you guys for tuning in. I truly hope that this be a blessing to someone. I try to close out with a message. So my message is simple. It is going back to what Pastor Anthony Goolsby just said, which is be obedient to what God is saying to you. If you're hearing God and God is saying move, if God is saying do it, be obedient and move the way God is calling you to move. As I say in the book, which you kept telling me, just do you. Do what God has called you to do. So thank you for tuning in to another episode of Kingdom News. As always, I pray you have a blessed week, and I will see you again next week. Yes, it's that time of the year. Kingdom Purpose TV's second anniversary virtual conference. This year's theme is Greater Expectation. It will begin Thursday, June 30th and run through Saturday, July 2nd. Our evening will be hosted by our own Bishop Vernon Matthews and his lovely wife Tamra Matthews. That will begin in the evenings. Starting Thursday, June 30th at 1 p.m., we have Gwen Goolsby Tillery, myself, with Bishop Charles Matthews hosting with two amazing speakers, Brianna Mead and Tiffany, followed up by Friday's session hosted by myself and Minister Shakita Jackson. We will have three dynamic speakers that will be talking about business, health, and relationships. And on Saturday, I will be co-hosting with my husband, Coach Alex Tillery, and we have four amazing speakers lined up for you.